On a review, the single mic setup is what we're going to work on the position on this right now. So we have our amp, we have the 414 that Nick picked out, and we have our speaker, and now we're going to get into positioning a little bit. So according to our diagram, we're going to get our basic starting point. And it's really hard to tell on this. Do you have the phone again? The flashlight? It's almost impossible on these speakers because the grill cloth is so thick. And yeah, I can't even really see it, to be honest with you. You can barely just see the edge of the dust cone. I don't know if if they're zooming in on this or not, but you can kind of see it. So we're kind of right on the edge of where I'm saying. You can just see the silver on the dust cone, on the dust cover rather. And that's our, just our basic starting position. Kellen, here, thank you. And then again, I generally go for, I don't usually, a lot of people really eat the grill cloth. They shove the mic into the grill cloth. I generally give it 2 or 3, like I said, fingers. I just do 3 fingers kind of as a starting point. Just, a lot of times I will go back further maybe even back here and especially if it's a real bottom heavy sound, because low frequency waves move slower than high frequency waves do. And sometimes you need to let the sound develop. So you might want to pull the mic back a little bit, and you're still going to get plenty of, it's going to still sound, but you'd be amazed at how far back you can pull the mic and still how direct it'll sound. It'll still sound like it's right on top of it. So much more in this room, because this room is a little echoey, and it's a bigger space. So you probably want to stay closer, but we'll also, after we get the tone, we will be using mic stands and just these packing blankets as kind of makeshift gobos to make sure we don't incorporate too much of the room, because we have a lot of exposed brick here, and and then the big pane of glass at the back. Sometimes, if the amp was really loud, it would definitely, you might get some affectation from the room back into the microphone. So a lot of times we'll kind of section off the amp just to make sure that we're really getting the sound at the source, unless we're going for a room tone, unless we're going for the sound in the space. Again, it all depends on preference and taste and fitting it to the song. It's a lot of that. But Callan's going to assist us here, and then we're going to start playing the amp, and he's going to be moving the mic, and I'm going to listen on headphones because it's a little hard to hear in here with the amp right in the room. Like I said, ideally we would be isolated. This cabinet would be in a separate isolated space, and I would be able to hear through the speakers and base my judgment and base my opinion on what I'm hearing more just through our monitor chain. So I'm going to isolate with headphones and then hear it, and we're going to just play around with the sound, and you should be able to hear what position does for EQ and for the sound of the tone. And let me see, we got to make a new track here, and we've got the Beach Ball of Death. Hold on. All right, we have our signal. Can you, Kellen, do me a favor? Just can you tap on, scratch the mic and make sure we have signal? Yes, we do. Wonderful. Okay, good. All right, Ben. Oh, where is our...
The switch for these guys?
Yeah.
I'll just turn those off. They should be off.
The speakers are off?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Ben, let me just see what we got here. And for our demonstration purposes, we're not going to have the amp super loud, because obviously we're in an open space here and the amp's not isolated. So I'm going to work on with the master quieter, so we can then just hear more purely the mic, and I'll be able to hear on the headphones. interesting to know. Hold on a minute. It's interesting to note on an amp such as the Mesa, you actually have a third gain stage. So you're able to take the master of the channel and turn it up to get more of the push on the power amp side when we were talking about power amp distortion and to saturate the power amp. You're able to do that, and then you have an actual secondary output.
I do utilize
We use that all the time because
live and in the studio.
you know, it's very important to kind of like dial that, and we'll show a little bit more about that we'll be able to dial, you know, get the relationship. And I will back and forth, get the output set, and then kind of almost rock back and forth between the preamp and the power amp, turning them up and down to try and get the right, especially for like the heavy, the down picking kind of stuff, to get that punch and that push. And that's a big thing to do because
it really does affect how it reacts. The
completely
amp.
affects how
it's not just the volume, you know. In
right.
general.
So let me go ahead, play. And I'm dialing it up to get a lot of times the same kind of thing that I was just talking about with the guitar head, especially with this one, because this is a tube preamp. So a lot of times you'll turn the gain up a little higher and I'll push the mic preamp a little hotter and then dial down the output and not just go for a loud thing and then a quiet mic preamp, because part of the mic pre will play a big part into the guitar sound as well. Certain mic preamps, have a different sound. A tube mic preamp is going to saturate a little differently, and it's going to give you a different tone. So let me hear what's going on with this. If you can hear, I'm going to even just show that with that position there. Play, and I'm going to turn up the mic preamp. All right, so now that's our position. That's our position with it kind of center and bright. So we're going to try and go for a little warmer sound. So as he's playing really slowly, I mean like that, very slowly, just while making sure just left and right. Keep it on the same plane, not out, just towards the right. Hold up. Yeah, it's almost actually still almost too fast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah. And it's it's funny because it's harder with that stand on the floor. But yeah, did you guys hear that? How, if everybody at home, could they hear how much the sound changed just from that? I mean, he moved it assumingly slow, but it was actually still too fast because, I mean, centimeters make a difference. Every little position that he moved it at changed the sound drastically. Let me, you know what? I wonder if we'll be able to, not really quick. I want to hear if we can. Start going back that way. Hear the difference? Could you hear it out there? Could you hear it a little bit? No, not really. Oh, yeah. I wish there was a way you guys could hear what we're doing right here. But yeah, it's for everybody at home. I mean, you could hear there's a drastic difference. Go ahead. Now let's start going across it the other way. And as you cross the center of the speaker, you're going to hear like when it gets really bright.
You want to enable a track to record it and then do a really
that's a good idea. Thank you guys.
You wish, your wish is granted.
That's a great idea.
There's a way.
There's a way to do it. Okay.
Ready?
Kellen, you ready? play that back. And you can hear the difference. So now he's going towards the middle of the speaker. Make it a little louder. Here we go. Towards the middle of the speaker. And as it goes away. Drastic. There it is in a nutshell. I mean, that is, think about how many different, I mean, that's like if you were sweeping how many variations were there? Hundreds. Every little spot. And, you know, and I would even, honestly, we would move it even slower than that. But that's really it. So you find, that's the way to find that position. That's like it's massive. And then think about the variables of that. Now put another mic on that.
And blend it in, yeah.
And then the relationship between the two mics. And then add an ambient mic. We're going to show all these examples, but so let's try and get a position for for that kind of heavy down picking kind of thing. Let's go again.
You want me to bring it back this way?
Are we back? Are we over at the last position you stopped at?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we're going to go back the other way.
Record it.
Go ahead. Hold up. There's plenty of times where I'll miss it and I'll be like, oh, go back the other way. And that's exactly the case right here. Let's go backwards. Go back. Stop. Keep playing bend. Leave it where it is. Back. A little towards the right. Right there. That's pretty good right there. That's pretty good right there. Maybe it's a little dull. It's a little dull.
It's a little dull.
Let's go back. It's funny because they're brighter in the headphones.
A little before that was it.
Yeah, a little before that was it.
Had that
So
snarl.
just the tiniest bit, go back the other way. Just a tiny bit. Go ahead. Up. Let me just try record that really quick. Go ahead. That's pretty good. That's a good balance. It's got a nice amount of lows. Scratchy. It's got attack. It's got attack, and it's a nice rounded bottom without being too woofy. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Now, so we have that, and we could track with that, and that's great. But now we're gonna 2 mics or more. I guess we can try one with a mic on the other speaker. Let's try that. We'll show that one. So let's throw. You know what? Let's throw the. It's not hooked up. I believe that should be in 3, but the 421.
This one here?
No, the one that doesn't have a cable connected to it.
Steve, this might be a quick question from
Sure.
the chat rooms who's asking, what headphones are you using for this isolation right now?
I don't even know what these are, to be honest with you.
Are they your favorite pair or they're just...
What's my favorite pair?
yeah,
Or what
exactly. I think that might be more appropriate
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
What are you using?
I like the, if I'm not mistaken what the model is, the Audio-Technica MH50s.
Yeah, and they're affordable too.
Yeah, they're only
really
like
affordable.
$100 and
$99
something.
range.
I love
not.
those. I use those on the road a lot for tracking in the back
You use
of the
the
bus.
Audio-Technicas now?
Yeah,
The ones that I got? Yeah.
I use them in the back of the bus.
Yeah,
Because I
they're-
can't have monitors. So.
They're really comfortable. They isolate really well.
Cool.
That's the most, and to me, I have a bunch of different things. I have Sonys in the studio, I have Sennheisers, and they're all good. The Audio-Technicas for me, it's more comfort,
Yeah.
and especially for the artists, that's a big thing. I don't generally listen in headphones when I'm getting sounds in my studio because I'm isolated. I'll sometimes check it because it doesn't hurt. When we really quick going back to yesterday, somebody asked me a question about studio monitors, and if at all possible, I mean obviously I have a studio and I have a bunch of different. I have 4 different sets of monitors to choose from. Not everybody has that, but ideally, it wouldn't hurt anybody to at least have a secondary set of something to check it. I do that even when I do it for mixing, but I do that when I'm tracking too. I'll go to the Yamaha NS10s that I have that I don't ever track on them because they're very mid-range forward and they're very harsh kind of sounding speakers. Yeah. They're great for mixing because I mix very, very quiet. You can't track on them because your ears will get fatigued very, very easily. But I will turn them on like when I'm getting guitar sounds and just really quickly just go and flip back and forth between the 2 different sets of monitors just to hear what they're going to sound like closer. Oh, it's like, well, what's it going to sound like? And again, it's thinking the end game and what's going to sound like in the mix. So it's like, okay, well, that's going to give me somewhat of a sense of what the guitar sounds like in the mix.
It's also important for people to realize that it's not necessarily what sounds best that's going to complement the engulfs. Like, for instance, those Yamahas sound really bad, but that's the point. Like, you're going to hear if something stands out. They're very fatiguing, and if something's in there that you don't hear on a better pair of monitors or some really nice headphones, you're going to hear it better on one of these more less forgiving sets of monitors or headphones. And I find a lot of guys, especially kind of laptop musicians or people who don't have access to all the gear that Steve might have, they get like these really expensive, Beats headphones or like, Bose or something, and that's really the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, you actually want to. It always, honestly, it helps. I mean, like I said, I apply that philosophy to mixing, and that's why I mix on NS10s. But it can completely apply to tracking as well because it helps you with your end game. It helps to have a lowest common denominator source to listen on. You don't want I have Genelecs and they're quote unquote high end. They are a little high endy, but as far as price, they're like nice, really nice sounding speakers. But I'm very used to them. It's all a question of what you get used to. But I think it's very, very. I even have a setup where I can patch into my laptop, my Mac laptop, and pipe sound through the laptop speakers. So,
unfortunately, that's how most people are listening to music.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, right, how many people are listening on a laptop or how many people are listening on an iPod?
Yeah.
So honestly, that's the quickest one to me. Obviously, you should have some sort of headphone out to be able to monitor things in your studio or on your computer setup. So really simple, iPod headphones. Yeah. What does it sound like? What is the guitar, when you're getting the tone up, what does it sound like on iPod headphones? Because that's what people are going to listen to. So it helps to have that kind of secondary monitor source and just really quick back and forth. And if you can figure out a balance and get it to sound good on both of them, you're ahead of the game.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so this is our second mic setup. 2 mics or more, 1 mic on each speaker. So again, we have Kellen out here and we have the 414 and then a 421 on the other speaker. And again, if you want to, we're talking about phase and everything, but if you want to just, as a general rule of thumb, just eyeballing it. So I've got like 3 fingers and about 3 fingers. But ideally on the 421, the diaphragm really of the microphone starts about an inch back of where the head of the mic is. So if you want to say and just kind of roughly compensate, you could start this as a general point, but maybe knowing that, maybe you want to go in just a tiny bit more. And now we're going to listen. First, we're going to just listen. We're going to mute the 414, And now we're going to pull up the sound at the 421. So go ahead, Ben. Let's get a position on that one, Kellen. Let's start by, sweeping it to the left. And especially on this one, make sure that the mic stays on axis and doesn't tilt to the side or anything. So go ahead. Now I went for a little bit, go ahead again. Now, I went for a little bit of a duller sound. Let's see if we can record a little bit of that. Sorry. You know what? Go backwards, and we're going to demonstrate this again with the sweeping the mic, and I'm going to record it. Go ahead. All right, so if you can hear the difference of how when I was sweeping the mic. If I was on its own, I'd be like, yeah, that's good. A little too bright. A little too dull. Too dull. Okay. But let's just see, just leaving it where it is, okay? Now we're going to blend these two mics together. And I guess I should keep it rolling and keep playing. And I'm going to bring up the 414 first, and then with the 421 in where it is at the duller, like darker sound, and see how that affects what the 414 is doing. Go ahead, Ben. Now, I don't know if you could tell from the speakers or not, but I'll show you. And I was bringing that up. Flip back and forth between the two sources. Two different mics by themselves. 414 and then 421, and switch. Now together. And you see I went for a darker sound on the 421, but I was trying to use what that was doing to fill in maybe some of the holes. And now, when we pulled up the 414 at first, right, we were like, oh, that sounds pretty good. And then you pull up the 421, and again, the hole is greater than the sum of its parts. You go, well, the 421 sounds a little weird, a little boxy, and a little dull. But look what they did together. Yeah. And you know, again, you have all those variables with all the mic positioning, and then we have an infinite other amount of EQ and variables just by getting the blend between the two mics. And here, I mean, in reality, my output of my 421 was probably a little low. So at this point right now, your eyes can deceive you, but the fader is higher on the 421. That doesn't mean the 421 is louder. The 421 is actually probably still quieter than the 414. But I messed up, and the signal was a little too low going into our summing amp. But you can see that. So that's a thing that, playing around with all of that. Now, let's talk about phase again, and making the phase. Right now, it's pretty good. The mics are pretty in phase, but let's see what it sounds like. I'll show you by flipping the phase, how the mics, with our blend that's right here, flipping the phase on the 421. And you can see what the difference is when the mics are out of phase. And I'll record this. Okay. Now, what this is telling us, especially since the volume cut so drastically, and if you can look on the screen, look how much the volume cut, which pretty much just by eyeballing it, pretty much tell us that our mics are pretty in phase because there's a lot of cancellation going on. And I was talking about that cancellation thing yesterday, but listen to the difference. In phase, out of phase.
Drastic.
This sounds like a lot of the death metal records I used to record.
That sounds like
But you know what? Even that sound can work.
in a scenario.
Yeah, like I said, I was just saying to Ben, that said, that sounds like a lot of death metal records that I used to record back in the early, that really scooped out, because what's happening is all the cancellations happening and you're left with a lot of like extreme highs and extreme lows. Yeah. And sometimes, you know what, that sound can be cool. That's for an effect, that's a great thing.
I think it's interesting to note, especially in the last thing that we recorded, when he added in that second mic, not only did the tones change, but you felt a lot more width. It felt a lot wider and bigger. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, back in the day, there wasn't even stereo. There wasn't the ability to even mix the stereo. People were some of those, like those early Beatles records and stuff like that. Everything was mixed for mono. People were listening to things through just one speaker. They didn't have stereo, and they didn't have the ability, or they weren't using the ability, even when they had it in the beginning, to use the technology to mix the stereo. So they had to create all that depth, and they didn't have reverb plugins. They didn't have all this stuff. So they had to create all the depth in these really dense, amazing classic records through moving mics and stuff like that. So like if you felt like something was farther away, it was because the mic was farther away. If you felt like something was more in your face, it's because the mic was closer. It's because the phase was different. So think of all the options and all the depth and all the complexity you can get out of a record, and color and feeling and personality just through these things he's showing you now. And now imagine then being able to add panning and be able to add processing and reverbs and effects and things like that. So if you understand these concepts and are able to create a great sounding record without all of that, imagine how far you can go.
Yeah, it all again, and I keep always going back to the committing thing, and it all starts at the source. But look, just what Ben touched on, you look at some of the early the records in the '60s, like the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, and or up until the White Album by the Beatles, all the way up through Sgt. Pepper, the original focus and the intent of all those records was mono, not stereo. Stereo was an afterthought. And if you ever get a chance to hear, like say, Sgt. Pepper's, if you're listening to the Beatles, if you hear Sgt. Pepper in mono, it's incredible. Sounds better than the stereo version.
Sounds better
it's better than the stereo version.
Because they were recording without thinking they had that option.
Right.
To even move things like that.
The funny thing
was
is,
just like this.
The funny thing is in panning, and a lot of times, like if you're people who are like the recording kind of nerd guys out there that are watching this, like, and they're into like, if they don't know this, that, it's, like the Beatles, like, it's so cool, the drums are on the left. It's like, that's all they had, because the drums were mono.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we need to create, and the stereo mixes were an afterthought. And they go, well, we need to do something. We need to make a space. So let's put the drums to the left and the vocal to the right, you know. And it's like, that wasn't like a production like thing. Like I don't think that was a really conscious production decision.
That was like we recorded this for mono, and we somehow got a record label to let us mix in stereo. What do we do with this? Mm-hmm. You know?
No, but
What do we do
stereo
with
was
this? How do
really
we
popular.
how to utilize this?
Yeah, stereo became popular in the States before it did overseas, but those records were made in England, and it's, they were really mixing for mono. And so how do you create depth and space, and how do you create, and you have to commit to everything, and how do you do that, and how do you create depth and space in a mono recording? And it's like, wow, how is that even possible? Because, when you think about stereo, and it's like, oh, okay, that's it, stereo. And so again, it's sometimes, like I said, you'll be taking the microphone and you're back 5 feet because it's like, okay, well, this guitar's not up front, but I want it there. I want it to have a presence and I want it to feel like something. So what do? I mean, to me, it's a simple thought process.
Here.
Do you want the guitar's farther back? Okay, record it farther away. It's, I know it's that seems like the
Microphone's the ear.
The microphone's in ear. It's like,
That's what it is.
where is this supposed to be? Where are the drums? The drums are in the back. Okay, well, let's do one mic. Let's do Led Zeppelin when the levee breaks. Let's put one mic in a hallway and record the drums like that. That's it. So all these things I'm showing, it's giving you all the options. And again, without EQ, I didn't do any EQing yet. All that was just on mic position and relationship between two microphones. And also, the preamp, like I showed you, dialing in the preamp and driving the preamp a little harder. If you could hear it, as I drove the preamp harder, the sound got edgier. On this preamp, that's the characteristic of this preamp. And this is tube, so it's saturating in a different way. If I had, say, a solid-state preamp like a Neve or a Focusrite or even the SSL mic preamps, they'd overdrive in a different way. And just having those palettes and having, if you have a few different options in your recording setup and knowing what the tendencies, just like knowing what tendencies of the heads are, knowing what the tendencies of the microphones are, knowing what the tendencies of the speakers are, knowing what the tendency of your mic preamp is, and having those options, it's all EQ, it's all phase, it's all EQ, without ever touching an actual EQ.